Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I am your host, Donovan Thompson, my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today is episode 51, and we are back to the movies because we reviewed and watched Tenet.
We did. We finally, my first time back since, I think it was my first time in the theater since The Invisible Man in February.
Wow. Yeah. Of course, I watched The New Mutants, which you can check that podcast out previously. And so we did it. We went and saw Tenet.
We did. It was,
and we, of course, we wore masks. We were safe. It was only we did have a group of 5 people, but it was us, and that was it. And the rest of the theater,
no,
maybe
like
one or two.
Other group. It was like 4 other people, like 3 or 4 rows above us.
But still in this huge auditorium.
Yeah. There was no one there. Basically.
Yeah, there was nobody there. So we did it. You know, of course, this was in my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year, maybe top 3 of the year.
Sure. I mean, it's a new Nolan movie.
Nolan.
The film world stops when Nolan makes a new movie.
It does. And I even prepped this by watching Inception before time, just because I wanted to kind of feel that kind of movie beforehand. And, I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I thought it was entertaining. I think it makes absolutely no sense.
See, I think it does.
I think the plot is nonsensical,
really,
in many ways. Yes,
I know when we come out of the movie
there's
theater,
so many plot holes. It's like if you even it's worse than The Dark Knight, and if you just poke at one thing, it's like
I don't know. Is there?
I think so,
because I was really trying to, like, after we watched it, and of course there was that water cooler talk after the movie, where we were sitting there like Bruce had his thoughts on it. Yes, Bruce Hutchinson watched it with us.
Yes,
we're cool. He watched movies with us,
and
he had thoughts on it. We all were kind of talking about it. And I mean, I was kind of like, going through my head and everything else. There's a few things, of course, I'm kind of not quite sure about.
Yes.
Just like logistics.
100%. But
I think I figured it out now. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I thought it's loud and fast.
Yes.
I couldn't understand probably a third of it.
I agree.
In terms of just what people were saying, which increased the confusion to bad levels.
Yeah.
I think there's part of it that's supposed to be like mysterious or like not confusing. What's that we listened to that Script Notes podcast of Craig Mazin and John August, and they talk about the difference between like confusion and I'm trying to think of the other word, but it's you don't want to confuse your audience, but you do want to like basically intrigue them and make them curious and present mysterious things to them that they have to think to understand.
Right.
It's different than confusion. Confusion is what did that person say? Like, why are they doing this? Who sent them? Who is this group? Where did they come from?
Yeah.
Do all people just go to this place when they take a pill? Like, is this like the military standard? Like everyone in the military this happens to? Why did it happen to it? It's just all these things of like that. I couldn't even understand half the time what they were saying, and when I could understand what they were saying, I had very little idea of what they were talking about. I was just, and again, the sequences are so quick, and you get to the next action sequence, I just kind of felt like I was like, kind of braced against my chair, just like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, it's going so fast, and it's well made, it's well acted. There's really cool action scenes, though I think a lot of the action scenes just feel kind of rehashy to me in terms of things we've already seen in Nolan films. So it's a good, well-made film, but I'm not sure it's a great experience in watching it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get out of it, I'm like, like, I feel like I need to watch it another 2 or 3 times, but I don't really want to. I feel like I need repeat viewings to really comprehend what's going on in that movie. But it's kind of such a, again, like kind of blasted against my chair, like wild ride that it's kind of an exhausting movie. You get done with it, you're like, okay, all right, interesting. Like, and again, I think some of the twists are a little generic and traditional for time travel-y movies. I think, anyway, I think it is probably one of Nolan's weaker films, if I'm honest. I think for me, Inception is better. For me, Interstellar is better. Though some of the confusion in Interstellar and this, I feel like, are similar. This is probably better than Dark Knight Rises. Well, not confusion, just plot holiness. Like Interstellar gets so ambitious with its finale that it's like, but wait, that breaks some things in the story if you think about it too hard.
Really?
If you follow the logic too much.
We need to do like a breakdown with Bruce on
That'd be a good rewatch.
I want to do a breakdown on Tenet with Bruce on this. Like,
I don't know if I don't think he would agree to.
Why?
Because he was like, when we were walking out of the theater, I was like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And he was like, I don't care. It's not even worth questioning. I mean, it's not. There is no answer. He was like, yeah.
I think there is answers. I don't know. I didn't come away with this like small cynicism that you guys did walking out of it. No, I'm not saying it's a negative thing.
I just think it felt like Nolan had too much creative freedom, and Nolan said like, okay, this is cool. We got to make sure people understand what's going on. It does feel
like, and I've seen this statement a few times, the most Nolan film no one's ever done.
But to a detrimental point.
Sure, I can see that.
To the point where you're like, this only makes sense to you, Chris. You're the only one that really understands
Well,
this.
it's really, I think there's a balance there between trying to explain the mechanics that are happening in the movie.
Oh, God, so much exposition.
Yeah, there's that balance of, like the Back to the Future way, which is like, here's the rules, and then we're going to go with it.
Right.
And then there's like the Primer way, where they kind of go and kind of give you gobbledygook. That way you kind of they make you they give you a lot of stuff. That way you let go of it.
They don't try to explain why it's bad. Just like, hey, you can't do this because of this.
Exactly.
Here's a gobbledygook reason because we know that you really don't care.
Exactly.
But I feel like this tried to make all the reasonings they tried to not do that. They tried to make it like make sense.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This lies somewhere in the middle, and it kind of, since it didn't go to either one of those points, it kind of almost loses something.
It does 100%, because it's not gobbledygook enough to just kind of throw the reasoning out of the way, out of your mind, but it's not clear enough to even. It feels like they were trying to make it not gobbledygook. It feels like they were trying to go for here's a time travel movie that logically makes sense, which was probably, if that was your goal, it's like, that's impossible. Just don't even try. Like, at some point, you've got to throw part of the logic equation out of your head to make a time travel movie make sense at some point. You know what I'm saying?
So I think yes and no. Again, I don't share the same cynicism as you and Bruce do on a lot of it. But let's kind of go down some of these certain things about the movie itself, and we can kind of talk about it. Let's just do the I want to bring up this apparatus thing first, and then we'll hit like larger things like story and themes and characters. One thing I think that has to be apparent now, is that Christopher Nolan likes people in masks.
He does.
Like Bane. And
he likes this. Maybe he just likes the way people's voices sound through the mask.
He must love Darth Vader. Like, he must have a shrine to Darth Vader, you know? But I think that has added a lot to the. It's hard for us to understand people talking, and I think also like because he came under fire in Dark Knight Rises when the trailer came out. People couldn't understand Bane. He went back and remixed Bane before the movie came out.
I think he should have remixed this. Because it's a question of just remix it.
Yeah.
Just do a different pass on the audio, take out some of the distortion, because they didn't actually get audio with those people in those masks. They all got clean audio that they affected to make it sound like that. So just, take the master effect dial down by like 20% or something.
Yeah, I think that, and it's a mix of it's almost like he likes it to be, and this is paraphrasing, real world audio where sometimes, sound effects and different things are happening over actual dialogue, in which typically we've been trained in movies where dialogue almost trumps other things because it's the most important thing we need to hear.
For story movies, it is.
Yeah,
for traditional narrative Hollywood films,
yes,
at least,
and he doesn't follow that. He follows, traditionally like.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like. An intentional thought.
No, I think so. I feel like it's a common thread in a lot of his movies, and not all of them, but I think.
I mean, this is the one that I really think about it.
I think the Dark Knight Rises is the big one. Just
with Bane, though.
No, not just with Bane. There's a lot of like.
There's a lot of like murmuring that is difficult to understand.
Yeah, especially during.
In fact, I remember when Gordon's in bed and he visits him before he's like fully back as Batman. Yeah. I remember in the theater being like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, even when the CIA is doing their thing,
and it's always when these low decibel kind of raspy things, and I think part of that too is his soundtracks are typically these bassy, reverberating noises. It is interesting. It is interesting.
I think that would go a long way, but let's get into the bigger things. Let's talk about the story. So,
yes,
here's what the story is. Spoiler alerts. We're not going to probably talk about the ending, but we'll talk about the baseline of it.
Yes.
The protagonist, which is played by David Washington, I think is his
Denzel Washington's son?
Not I don't think so. Is
Yep.
it?
Same guy from.
That's Denzel's son.
Yeah, it's the same guy from Black Klansman.
I didn't know that was Denzel's son.
Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I knew it was Black Klansman guy. Anyway, that's wild. Anyway, good on him making some movies.
He's doing well. He was good. I liked him. I don't know if I really got to know him, his character.
No.
I mean, and that's we'll say if we'll talk plot. We'll not talk about the twist though. The twist is something I think you could have seen coming in any time travel movie to some extent. But the movie starts off and it's just kind of off with a bang, which is typical Nolan. We start off with this crazy action sequence.
Right.
Bad guys in Ukraine blowing something up, good guys coming in to stop them. Now, I walked in at like literally seconds after it started. Did we get any like, hey, these are U.S. forces or these are special forces in the U.S.? Did we get any information like who the people that Denzel Washington Jr. group was in? Because they were in this like fake van and then they like gearing
Next
up
summer,
and putting on
Denzel
patches.
Washington Jr. is in Tenet.
Right. Did they tell us, hey,
the only thing we know when they're in the group, it's like they're listening to they're listening to who these people are so they can change out the patch.
Right.
I didn't know he was CIA until like he was captured.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't.
So they didn't answer that for us, which is fine. They give us this big thing. So obviously the inciting incident is that he is captured and he's being interrogated.
Yes.
And they have these suicide pills that he
cyanide, whatever.
whatever it is, and he ends up finding a way to get it in his mouth and take it, and he wakes up on a boat. Is that where he is? On a boat? Yeah. And then they're like, you passed the test. The test was to see if you would take it or not, which seems like there'd be a lot of people passing the test because he was being like excruciatingly tortured as well. Because I mean, a lot of times people take that because they're like, I don't want to fucking die at like a slow, painful torture death.
Yeah.
So anyway, you pass the test and now you're a part of a group that doesn't have a name, and we don't even know really what you're supposed to do.
They have a name.
What was their name?
Tenet.
No, that wasn't the name of the group.
That is the name of the group.
Well, but he said, I have one word for you. I have one word, and he gives like this, hand gesture where he's putting his fingers together. He's all I have for you is a word, Tenet. But he doesn't say we are Tenet.
No, they don't. But based on my research, this person's a member of Tenet. This person's a member of Tenet.
Okay,
this person's a member of Tenet.
It should not take research.
I'm not saying it shouldn't.
To understand what characters and what groups are active in a movie.
No, I agree with you. I'm just telling you what I learned.
Okay, that's fine. But if you're watching this in the movie for the first time, you're probably not going to know that unless you listen to this first.
For sure.
So it's just giving us this information that's like, it starts hitting you just rapid fire. Like, you got to go here and you got to go there. Why? I don't know. You just got to do it because the world's at stake. In what way? Nuclear maybe? I don't know. And then we get into like the time travel mechanics eventually. And I will say, I guess I appreciate that they didn't just like fire hydrant us all of the time travel exposition right in the beginning. At least they took their time to kind of slowly help us understand how it worked to some degree. But even then, every time I felt like we got exposition, it was very show not tell. It was very like, here's this, here's this, here's this. Oh, you can't do that because of this, this, this. Oh, you can't do this because of that. Especially,
you mean the opposite, tell not show?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, there was a lot more. There wasn't enough showing and not telling. It felt as though there was a lot more exposition just through dialogue, through conversations.
Well, I feel like there's the main mechanics of the time inversion is mainly, I don't know, bullet inversion, which is the first thing we've learned about.
Right. Yeah. So the big thing is inversion. You use these machines, and you start moving backwards through time.
Well, I think the way they doll it out to us, because again, the first thing we learn about is basically the plot of the movie, and we're not doing a great job of doing this, but the plot of the movie is there are ammunition that is found that is inverted, meaning that it's radioactively charged differently than us. Let's say if we're going through time forward, then this ammunition is going backwards through time.
How?
I don't know the answer. I'm telling you I'm telling you what we've been told.
Right, and it's just through this object.
Yeah, but I'm saying what the thing is they're like, hey, this is dangerous because of X, Y, and Z. This could be turned. We found other objects like this that are inverted.
Well, and they're saying it's from the future.
Yeah, it's clocks and mechanics. X, Y, and Z.
How do they know that? How do they know that this? How do they immediately know that this is from the future?
Well, on the ending might tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, but
it's a loop thing kind of.
Yeah, I guess so.
But the big thing is they're like, hey, find who makes this ammunition, and once you do that, then you can basically find out how to save the world. That's the plot of the movie.
Well, where it's coming from, who's inverting it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the big part of the movie.
Yeah,
that's where I was getting.
But
at.
they find that. Well, he finds out who's making it very quickly.
Yeah, but you got to figure out how that ties into other things about stopping. Yeah, it gets more complicated, of course, but
it does. But it feels like arbitrarily complicated at times. I feel like it's honestly like so. There's so many different threads. I'm trying to get.
I'm trying to think about it too. Yeah.
In my head as I'm talking about it, because you walk out of the movie like, okay, I understand this, not that, and then time passes and you're like, kind of starts blurring together what you understood and what you didn't understand.
Yeah. I think the movie would be cool. Side note: when you go back and watch it a second or third time, is to pick out some of the things that were happening in the background.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure there is a lot of that. Of like, you see different characters in the background if you look closely and shit like that.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about something that bothered me was the big, I guess, instigator of this incident, right? Is that the future, what we find out eventually, and this is spoilers, so spoilers. Though it's spoilers that I don't feel like impacts the story at all, to be honest. So the future has run out of their resources, and therefore they are coming to destroy the past. But how does that help them where they are? And it seems like
it's funny because I'm like, that's what it was about.
It seems that's what's said. He says
they say that, but I'm not sure it's what. Yeah, they say
but that's the reason there are inverted things in the present.
I know
because
that
the future has been sending things back.
I know that
to this guy.
Let's say their water levels are high, and so if they raise ours, then theirs gets lowered.
But he says their streams and rivers have run dry, their forests are empty. Like he's basically said it's basically climate change is his ultimate worst ending.
Yeah.
The world has been depleted of
resources. Which Nolan touched upon also in Interstellar. Fascinating.
Yeah. So it's like the depletion of resources, right? Like that's the ultimate future that the future versions of the world is trying to remedy, but their plan is to destroy the past. And then it gets looped into the main antagonist, Kenneth Branagh, who his whole deal, and it's kind of paralleled with his relationship with this estranged wife character that he's like, if I can't have you, no one can. And so it becomes like, it feels like, and they do this thing when they do the reveal about the future and their resources and stuff. It's like, that's why they're doing this. They're just like pissed that they're screwed. So they decided to destroy the past as well as because they're fucked anyway.
See, I always thought that was independent of them. I thought what he was doing was independent of what the future wants.
No, he was working with them. He was working for them. And again, in a partly uneligible or just confusing conversation that happens right at the very end, right when he's like held captive and he's got like the phone on the rail and he's talking to him right at the end
tonight.
You might should. He's like, yeah, I was just the perfect candidate because I felt the same. Like I didn't care about ending the world either, basically, or some shit. Though I'm not really even sure why he wants to end the world personally.
Because he's dying.
Okay, so that's his point. It's basically
spoilers, by the way.
So basically, he's like the physical manifestation of the future. They're dying in the future, so he's just gonna kill everyone in the past. He's dying, so he's just gonna kill everyone, which is a weak. It's kind of like that kind of villain. It just kind of feels like that's just kind of stupid. You know, like I'm just such an evil person that as I die of cancer, I'm gonna destroy the whole world. And they try to justify that with him being like you know, he was what was he was like a lot, he like got his start at like the death of the Soviet Union or the beginning of the Soviet, like he tied him into like the Soviet history and the USSR and stuff. But it was just so unclear. Why is the future, is everyone in the future just some vindictive dickbags? Everyone is, and they're just like, fuck the past.
Let me Wikipedia this plot real quick.
So fuck y'all too. It makes the whole reason that the movie is happening just feel very silly. It just feels like a bunch of petty people being petty. And that's the instigator for this world that the movie resides in. it just doesn't make a lot of sense at all. It just feels like such a, I mean, it feels like the truest sense of MacGuffin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like they just like didn't care at all to flesh out the antagonist. And they try to flesh out Brana and have these like moments where he's mean to his wife. But even him, I didn't feel like he was that bad of a bad guy, I guess. He yelled at his wife and like...
Seemed pretty bad to me.
I mean, yeah, but he's not like... He didn't convince me that he would just destroy everything. I feel like they tried to make him this Bond villain, but I felt like every other Bond villain was more Bond villainy than him. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to go Bond villain, go full Bond villain. Just go for it. Don't try to make them realistic, because no realistic villain would destroy the world because they have cancer.
I'm reading the Wikipedia plot here.
Yeah, I mean that's you're gonna have a clear understanding of this movie from that page than you would watching it.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like we're missing something. I do feel like I think honestly, show me what I'm missing. Yeah, I know.
I want to be wrong.
I think there is
something. I want
something.
it to all make sense.
I think there is something to do with the future. I don't know if the future's mission is to also blow up everything.
That's why they sent That's why they sent all those little pieces back, so he could connect them all and blow everything up. Why else would they send all those pieces back?
See, I can't remember. I thought it was something else. Like I thought. No, I don't think they sent them. I think there was a girl who got it and broke it apart.
Right.
Remember that?
The future pieced it back together and sent it back.
That's what happened.
I think so.
I don't think so.
You brought the girl thing. What the fuck was going on with that? Because that didn't make sense at all.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Guys,
but they didn't spend enough time to like. It was like this added lore moment at the very end of the movie, and it was just like, why the fuck do I care about this girl? Like again, it was like, hey, let's give an explanation for why all these devices, I guess man-made devices. I don't even know exactly what they just look like, pieces of metal that someone welded weird shapes onto. And
they look really fucking weird.
They're just pieces of metal. I mean, that's literally what it is.
I don't know who
metal and
I don't know why Christopher
shit.
Nolan thought this was like this looks visually cool or appealing.
No, it doesn't. And it just gets so convoluted. Like this is like it's making my brain into spaghetti trying to think about all the convolutedness of that finale and that ending. Yeah, it's just so. It's just there's just too much to explain. There's too much that gets these shitty throwaway explanations that really detract from the story, because as soon as you get that, you're like, wait, what? How does that make sense with everything else? And then they're just moving on and trying to explain other shit that you're now getting lost with. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Why would the past come to destroy the present? Why would they? How does that help them? What? And it felt like they were trying to explain some sort of like dimensional theory at the end too. Like, oh, well, our past is different than or our past can be different than their present. Like it felt like things were getting multiversy. No,
I honestly, I was leading to this anyway, is that it's time travel, but also more like parallel universes.
But they don't explain that well enough to make that clear.
They don't, but I kind of got the impression that it's almost like one and the same kind of like, it's almost like it's not. Our big hang up is thinking of time travel is how we think of time travel, and their version is a little more.
It's not linear.
Exactly.
Sure.
And part of me is not upset, but like concerned that this podcast will be all over the place and not interesting to watch. But I also think this is representational of the movie itself.
It is. You come out of it, and this is the kind of conversation you have to have, because it's just now. Let's be fair. There's some cool things. I think one of my favorite things in the movie was that kind of final set piece where they're attacking this base, and these people are having to fight these army men. Now, don't you get in your mind to ask about who these fucking army men they're fighting are and where they came from.
I have no idea.
And I guess the future has armies in the present / past. Don't ask who they're fighting, but they're fighting this mission, and they basically have two squads. One is going forward through time and one is going backward through time. And so there's these cool shots where you see some of the army men like going forward and fighting, and like at the same time other people are going backwards. It's some cool like kind of action set pieces, some cool moments. Robert Pattinson's really great in this movie. I really enjoyed him. The wife's okay. I don't know. I felt like she could have ran away at any point earlier. I mean, I don't know. I guess they tried to paint her husband as being like such a powerful bad guy that he could find you no matter where you are or something. But that didn't come enough clear. I didn't feel like that was real enough to really be something to factor in. It is a movie that entertains you while you watch it, but then you get out and you start wondering why things happen the way they did, and then you're fucked. Have you read anything that is giving you any more clarity? I'm trying to kind of fill some time here. Doing some research.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So we talked about this girl a minute ago. Acting, and her name is Andrea. So acting on orders from the future, Andrea has spent decades gathering the 9 parts of the algorithm, which is actually an irregular metal cylinder that encodes the secrets of reversing time, not just for individual objects or people, but for the entire planet. Because a forward-moving entity that comes into contact with its backward-moving equivalent is instantly annihilated, which is a plot point from the movie Time Cop.
But then they never actually. What's sad is they never show that happening.
No,
do they?
No, they don't.
They should have.
Activating the algorithm would mean the instantaneous end of the world, which would be bad.
Wait, but also
if the humans touch each other,
does it have to be skin to skin? I guess to annihilate you.
I don't know.
Because he fights himself
in Time Cop. That's a big part of Time Cop, which is about Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
He ends up not spoilers for Time Cop. You fucking should have watched by now. It's 30 years old. He ends up knocking the past bad guy and the future bad guy in, like touching each other, and they end up they fucking become non-existent. So it's like a Time Cop thing.
Okay. My question is, does this only work for skin coming to because
that is
Denzel Washington Jr. fights himself. That's like one of the main action sequences in the first third of the movie.
The only thing I could think of is that, in Time Cop, it's the same mask can't occupy the same space. So let's say it's a naked John David, not Jake, not Jane David, and they're the exact same. I don't know. I don't fucking know. The math,
that part
but
seems
here's
flimsy,
the thing.
though. It has some rules that aren't explained.
So, because a forward-moving entity that comes into contact with its backward-moving equivalent is instantly annihilated, activating the algorithm would mean the instantaneous end of the world, which would be bad. But why don't anybody want to do that? That's not entirely clear, but he buries the explanation in a crackly walkie-talkie transmission near the end of the movie.
Yes, when he's talking with him.
Yeah, Andrea suggests that the future is at war with the past because the oceans rose and the rivers ran dry because of a catastrophic climate change. With no path ahead of them, their only hope is to change direction and carve out a future in our past. They presumably don't think that means instant annihilation, or at least they're willing to risk it, since with every other natural resource exhausted, the only one left is time.
So their plan is not explained at all.
Yeah.
But they just didn't even care to try to explain exactly what future was trying to do.
Yeah, but it's also
sucks. That's bad. That's a bad movie.
But it's also, as Tenet admits, an extension of the short-sighted thinking that caused the climate crisis in the first place. As the protagonist's ally Neil, which we'll get to in a second, explains, every generation looks out for its own survival.
Okay.
So it makes no fucking sense.
It doesn't make any sense because, assumedly the future
it makes sense,
is who
but
came
it's not
up.
a good makes
well,
sense.
but the future Earth is who came up with time travel. It didn't happen in the present, so they came up with it.
Are we sure they come up with it, or they found it?
Where did the objects come from?
I thought it was something like radiation, and they discovered it.
Either way, they've discovered the process or the objects or whatever. They discovered the ability to time travel.
Yes.
And so they are the ones that found out all about all these rules. They're the only ones that could have come up with the if you touch yourself, you get annihilated rule. And someone must have come back and told us that, or I guess someone in the present found one of these things and annihilated themselves and they jotted that down. I don't know. It's just like, things like that.
There is something about at least the bad guy, Sator, he is getting information from the future, right? So
how?
I don't remember. But he is.
And so it ends up just being two fuckers who don't give a fuck about anything, fucking everything for everybody else. That is the
it sounds like
antagonist motives as a whole.
It sounds like the future's future is already fucked, so they're kind of like, well, maybe this is a path to change things.
Let's do something that we have active evidence doesn't work, in case it might work this time.
Well, it says that they're not quite sure about that. They're not quite sure what happens if you destroy.
Who isn't?
The future.
Why?
That's what it says.
How do we know?
We don't. I'm saying this is why.
How do they know?
Who's they?
Whoever wrote that. How do they know that the future isn't sure? Does the movie say that?
I guess so.
Because the movie seems to present the very clear fact in the beginning of like, touch yourself, you're dead. That's
Well,
like
I
time travel. You know, it gets to the point where you're like, here's the rules.
Well, I think again it says we through a walkie-talkie. So that's
Okay.
I don't know.
Hopefully you're starting to understand the plot issues in this movie.
Let's not
even if you can find a way, and I do not think it is possible, but if you can find a way through the lines to make everything actually have some sort of logical sense, I think it is impossible. Don't they do the whole granddad paradox thing too?
They said that they don't think that they said what has happened has happened. So that's what Neil believes is what has happened, meaning that if you kill yourself in the past, it doesn't matter because you can't affect time. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a loop.
It's basically parallel universes.
It's a loop, basically.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that part of things is normal time travel movie.
Sure.
Shit that you have to find a way to understand, which is meaning just make people not care about it.
Yeah.
Because you can't. These are real paradoxes in the real reality world. You can't
it's
just
like,
make them make sense in a movie.
I would say it's like the Quan theory, like in Lost, right? So I'm gonna go back and kill my grandfather. Turns out I had already it already happened in the past. I wasn't aware about it yet because I haven't committed the act yet.
Right?
You know
what I'm saying? No.
So
that all that aside, if you can find a way through this movie to make it make sense, it's still a huge problem. That you had to work that hard.
I really wish
that anyone had to work that hard to make it make sense.
I could watch in the theater, but with subtitles. Like I want to watch it at home.
Yes,
I want to watch it.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
Christopher.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a good thing.
One good thing I want to talk about, and let's just really cap off a lot of things.
Sure.
The cinematography is great.
Yeah.
The acting's good.
The what?
The acting's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
the score's great. I mean,
the
all
acting,
these.
But it's nothing's remarkable about it. The score could have been the score in any Christopher Nolan movie.
Wasn't it
the acting? You could have these actors could have been in Inception, and you just gave them a different script, and they would have fit right in.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing different. There's nothing remarkable. They're good actors, and really, the person like Robert Pattinson is memorable for me because he's Robert Pattinson.
No, I was going to say
not
my favorite
because
thing
of his character.
The standout thing about the movie to me, and it's is their relationship. Is Robert Pattinson's character Neil and the protagonist?
Sure.
It's their relationship. The actual characters don't have any arcs other than information.
The wife of the Brana does, I guess.
She has kind of an
She
arc.
has the only sense of an arc.
Robert Pattinson clearly doesn't have an arc.
No.
He's the same. Protagonist doesn't have an arc other than learning. His physical arc.
His
not
arc is just learning more information.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. His arc is learning information.
It's not. It's not. There's no like. He doesn't have to overcome anything personal, or really even. I mean,
no.
Even in the end, it's not him who overcomes the obstacle. So he has no arc at all.
Sator has no arc. He's already made his mind up at the beginning of the movie what he's going to do.
You're right.
Anyway,
you're right. There's no arcs.
There's no arcs. But the thing about it, I think the fun thing about it is the characters' interactions, mainly Neil and protagonist. Like I think I've enjoyed watching them together, and that was a fun part.
But I don't feel like it happened that much. Like it happened. It didn't feel like it was a.
I feel like almost every scene there's always like this cute like little line between them two.
There was, but I don't feel like we got enough of those scenes to make it feel like it's going to be a buddy time cop movie.
Yeah,
and I feel like you could have had a buddy time cop movie here that could have been interesting, and a Nolan version of a buddy time cop movie. But it felt like Robert Pattinson was so in and out. Like he'd be there for a little bit, and then he'd like disappear for 30 minutes. And then he'd show up again for like 20 minutes.
I don't think it was that frequent.
Woo!
And it got
sexy
all of a sudden. But my point is, I mean, I think a part of it is that
it is the better part of the movie.
That's what I'm trying to say here.
But
I'm not saying there's not issues.
Been much better than it was.
Sure,
is my opinion.
That's fine.
And if we're gonna address I mean, I saw the twist at the end coming a mile away. I'll try not to.
I saw
head on, but I mean, it felt like it was. There's some. Again, it was kind of like every line that you talk about that was kind of that cute line between them was a line that was foreshadowing the twist. Yeah, almost every time. Because it was always like, because the line was usually like, what was the thing? Like, oh, we always do this. Or like, that's protocol. Or what he says something that it's like, oh, pincer move. It's the pincer move. And he's like, what's the pincer move? He's like, it's what we always do. And that was like the cute line between them.
Oh,
And then he says,
I honestly didn't catch that.
yeah, and then he says something else later about that, like, oh, we always have this rule. We always do this. He's like, we always have the rule. He's like, yeah, we always have the rule. He's like, he's like, who came up with the rule? He's like, I don't. It's just a rule. But it's like that cute moment. It's like, okay, I know what's happening here.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So there's
that's clever enough for me that I didn't.
It is fine.
Even though by the end of the movie I was like, I have a feeling this is going to happen.
Yeah, it was
I
obvious.
didn't catch that. Maybe it was more of a subconscious thing, but I personally wasn't picking up on that, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Now,
No,
like
they
other
definitely
things
foreshadowed it.
like the girl diving.
Yeah.
I was like, as soon as it happened, I went,
Yeah.
oh, that's that. As soon as the fight scene with the inversion thing,
100%.
I was like,
the fight scene with the guy in the mask, it was like, I know who this is.
I was like, that's easily.
It's not even a question.
Yeah, it was not even a question.
The only thing that I didn't know is actually the guy that Robert Pattinson handles. I thought that was going to be him.
I did too.
That was the only thing I didn't. But even in that, I'm a little confused because another can we're opening here. So Robert Pattinson and Denzel Jr. walk into that building in the beginning of the movie. The first time they go in.
Let's use this as the time machine.
Yeah. Okay, so they're going in there and they're
Both
like,
sides,
what
yeah.
the fuck is in this place? They find this machine. As soon as they walk in, two guys come out and start attacking them. Right?
Yes.
And then they both have to deal with one of them.
Yes.
Why did two Denzel Juniors come out of there?
Here's my
Because
question.
here's the thing.
Is it at the exact same time?
Yes, they both come out at the exact same time.
It kind of feels that way in the first time we watch it. The second time we watch it, it doesn't feel like it's the same time.
But either way, it's supposed to be that moment where they acknowledge, hey, you always need to watch yourself and make sure you're coming out when you're going in, right? Because you need to make sure you come out. Because if you don't come out, that means you don't ever come out. Right? Remember when they say that?
Yeah.
So it's kind of that
I
moment
don't remember
where
that actually. That's
that's what there's in that.
I don't
giant-
remember, but that's a good tip.
They're in
Like,
that.
that's-
They're in
oh,
that.
that's
It's in the big
smart.
blue and red rooms.
Yeah, yeah.
With their military, like you always look over there and make sure you see
No, I mean,
yourself.
I
coming
believe
out.
you. I'm just saying I
What
don't
sucks
remember
is why didn't you do something fun with that? I wanted to see like a main character look over and not see them and still go in or something. You know what I'm saying? That could have been a nice like
That's
interesting
interesting.
moment that they
I
never.
wish I'd caught that in
I
theater.
was thinking that moment was coming when they introduced that concept.
Interesting.
So then, when Denzel Jr. is actually going there in current time, when he's the guy in the mask this time, right?
Yeah.
He goes in, but two versions of himself come out that both attack Robert and Denzel Jr. in the past. That's not how it was working in the other instances of them going into the machines. Because if you look at the big machine where there's a wall, the room where there's the glass wall in between the red and blue rooms, right? They go in, they come out forward, they see their past selves going backwards.
I need to watch this again.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like this sense of like, well, there's not really two versions of me. That over there is me in the past, and this is me in the future. So that the person on the other side of the wall is going backwards orientationally to where I'm going forwards. Because I'm seeing my version of the present, and they're going backwards to my perspective. So when Denzel Jr. goes back to the airplane place and he actually goes into the machine with the mask on, theoretically, the only way Robert Pattinson should have seen the other version of him is if Robert Pattinson was in the past at that point. Which, unless that was a part of the twist that Robert Pattinson was always in the past in some way.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that is another point where it's just like the logic of how the machines even work doesn't make sense. Oh, it's just a movie that you come out being more. I feel like I knew more when I just had only seen the trailers. I thought I had a better idea of what this movie was then. Like,
I see. The thing is, I don't think that the way it's presented the second time. I'm trying to really think hard how it was presented the first time. The first time that the two guys meet.
One comes out. I mean, of course, you're seeing different shots in different orders, but they both come out. Robert Pattinson just lets his guy go by.
Is it happening at the same
like,
time though? That's my question.
Yeah, because he's fighting his guy. Robert Pattinson chases the other guy off when he runs down the hall. Which it also seems like Robert Pattinson has an idea that this guy actually isn't bad because he doesn't actually try to fight him at all.
In that case, then I think it's a matter of cross-cutting, and it's hard to show two things happening at once.
Right, but what I'm saying is
cross-cutting.
there shouldn't have been two versions of Denzel Jr. in a mask in that building.
No, there should have been.
But maybe you're right.
Because when he goes into the building.
Brain hurts.
When he goes into the building, he runs into the machine just to get away from his older self or his previous self. And when he does that, he runs into Robert Pattinson. Because as soon as he runs into that machine, then we see him run out, and then Robert Pattinson catches him.
I guess. But
that's what I'm saying.
But that happens simultaneously in the first version of that scene.
That's what I'm saying.
It happens simultaneously.
That's why I think it's the second time it's a matter of cross-cutting, and the first time it's a matter of, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe you're right.
I think it's the way it's presented is the issue.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know.
It's happening at the same time, but he wanted to focus on the fight scene in the second time more so. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the focus wasn't on the fight scene the second time.
Maybe the first time.
First time the focus was all on the fight scene.
Sure, then the first time. So it's like the second time we're getting we're seeing it linearly from his perspective and not happening at the same time.
Right.
Does that make sense? Because now we're following him. Like
it kind of makes sense, but also doesn't. The theme of the movie.
That makes sense. He's doing this.
No,
He's literally running around.
I got that part. It's still the way they show it first time. It's happening simultaneously.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're right.
And they're presenting it as if it is simultaneous.
Yeah.
Which
would
is
be
impossible based on how they present it later. One should have happened first, then the other. If
in the finale, it's happening simultaneously, correct?
The finale?
Yeah.
Like when they're not in that room anymore? When they're on the
finale, when they're on the battlefield, it's happening at the same time, right? The inverse in the normal, because they're going backwards they're arriving, because there's always a midpoint, but they're arriving.
There's a midpoint where they're at the same place, but the same.
I'm sorry, guys.
It is as confused as you probably are listening to this. Those that have stuck around, which is probably no one, if we're honest. That's how confused we are, and I usually feel like I can comprehend these things pretty well.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I understand movies that some people usually think are confusing at times. Like I don't know. It is. At the very least, you should see it because it's an interesting conversation piece. You will come out of that, go see it with a friend, and then go to lunch afterwards and just kind of mind vomit trying to figure it out, because that's fun. It is a fun experience. The action, like I said, the action is good, though I do feel like most of the action felt like a ripoff from his other movies and his other action sequences. All the highway stuff felt like, well, this feels very similar to fucking Dark Knight.
You can tell it's the same director for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
100%.
Absolutely.
Well, it's ended up being a longer episode than we anticipated.
Well,
but I'm not upset about it.
It was a longer movie than I anticipated.
That's true. Daniel, how can our listeners write into us and tell us their thoughts about Tenet?
They can write into bit.ly/241mail. There you can let us know your thoughts. Please, someone that thinks they understand this, write in. Explain it to me. Help me. This is a cry for help, because I don't understand it. And I feel like it's almost a thing of like, I feel like we talked about it, and I still feel like there's dozens of things that don't make sense that I can't even remember.
Well, there's things that I haven't said because I don't want to spoil everything.
Well, yeah, but there's also like, I felt like every 10 minutes of the movie, I was like, wait, what? What? Wait, what? What? Yeah. What? So,
and of course, if you don't want to write into our Bitly, you can always go to our YouTube channel and write a comment there below. Of course, tell us what you thought about the movie. Tell us what your favorite Nolan film is also, and where this kind of lies on that paradigm. And of course, hit that subscribe button. That way you're up to date on all future content, because of course there are things on the channel besides the podcast. So we always recommend you going there. Overall, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a cool movie to see in a theater. It's nice to be back, at least on some level.
It was nice to be back in a theater. It was nice to watch a blockbuster. And it was, again, I mean, it's worth, in my opinion, it's still worth seeing.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to buy it just because I'm going to have to.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have to at least watch it one more time.
Yeah.
To even just, I feel like I need to just give one more shot to even try and understand.
I'm telling you, I think, honestly, you know, we've done these breakdowns with Bruce. I think it's more, once you figure out the mechanics behind it, I think it's honestly a simpler movie than some of the other things he's made.
That may be true. I think discovering the mechanics about it may not be possible.
It's true. It's possible.
That's fine.
I'm going to convince Bruce now. Let's do Tenet. I'm going to find the script and we're going to read it and find it out.
I love it. Let's do it.
Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson.
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.